Neil Thinker here, trying to make sense of it all, trying to figure it all out. Um, what's going on in Russia? A lot of things are happening. Uh, Vladimir Putin is highly frustrated about the situation there in Ukraine, the Donbass area. A lot of NATO weapons killing a lot of civilians in the Donbass region that has these Russian separatists inside Ukraine. Last video, I think I explained to you that there is a possibility, high possibility, that the Russians may in fact use a tactical nuclear weapons device, or several tactical nuclear weapons devices inside Ukraine. The latest is that Vladimir Putin has come out and said that if the territorial integrity of Russia is threatened, um, he will use any of his weapons at his disposal, uh, that he's not bluffing. And so they're having a referendum, some type of a vote in some of these separatist regions. And I would imagine if they become officially part of the Russian Republic, that makes them part of Russia's territory. So places like the Donbass could, in fact, um, be considered part of Russia. So now, if these NATO weapons are used to kill civilians, and Vladimir Putin takes that as a threat to the territorial integrity of Russia, he can justify using nuclear weapons in retaliation in Ukraine, and he could even go so far as other NATO countries, to include Britain, Germany, Poland, the United States, any of these NATO countries, France, any of these NATO countries that are supplying weaponry to Ukraine, uh, if in fact the referendum goes through, they become part of Russia. Russian civilians are then killed. Then Vladimir Putin can come back if he decides to launch tactical nuclear strikes. Now, I don't think that the United States is going to do much about it if that were to happen. I mean, um, Joe Biden has pretty much said that he's not willing to put American troops on the ground or in danger in this conflict. He doesn't mind trying to whittle away at Russia using Ukraine as a proxy, but he's not going to get more Americans involved in this, where we start taking incoming nuclear strikes from Russia inside the United States because of some situation in Ukraine. I just don't see it. But we are on the precipice of a very dangerous situation in which, you know, nuclear weapons, which haven't been used since the end of the Second World War, could in fact be deployed in a military conflict, setting a new military precedence. Now, some people believe that nuclear war would be the end of humanity as we know it. A lot of heightened propaganda out there about such things. I don't really buy all of that. I mean, if you have these weapons, at some point, some idiot, be it from the United States or Russia or France or Britain or Israel or Saudi Arabia, any of these places where they have nuclear weapons, um, you know, it's not out of the realm of possibility that you begin to see them being used. We would hope that that's not going to be the case, but politically, Vladimir Putin is backed up into a corner. His people He's gone to this whole thing of mobilizing um, former military personnel and reservists, calling them up to fight the battle in Ukraine. We have a number of Russians who are now fleeing, going into places like Finland because they're like, hey, there's no way I'm going to do this. I'm not getting involved. I'm not going to lose my life for Vladimir Putin and his terribly misguided idea that he could somehow march over into Ukraine, that they were going to lay down their weapons. He's, it's like the bully. He got himself into a real fight. He's getting himself bashed in the face, and so he's trying to figure out a way to win this thing. I just don't think that the Ukrainian people are going to just lay down and take it. So we have to see where all this is going to go. I'm predicting that, unfortunately, there's going to be a nuclear confrontation that's going to take place sometime between now and the end of the year, in which the Russians are going to go nuclear. We have to see how the rest of the world is going to handle that. How are they going to respond to such behavior by the Russian Republic? How will China react? How will Iran react? How will a number of the allies of the Russians react when they use a nuclear weapon? And what's really going to be interesting is, how is Joe Biden going to react? The U.S. Navy, what's it going to do? The Air Force, Space Force, how are they going to all deal with the prospect, actually it won't be a prospect, the reality that, Russia has gone nuclear in this conflict. Again, I don't expect much from Mr. Biden. He really isn't the one driving the car anyway, but he's got an administration filled with clowns that puts the United States in much peril should Vladimir Putin go nuclear. And I would like to be wrong about this. The neo-thinker over the years has been a good predictor of these kinds of things. So we pretty much are expecting what we've narrated today, that at some point you're going to see a dangerous global precedent take place with the use of tactical nuclear weaponry inside the Russian, inside the Ukrainian territory by the Russian Republic. So that's where things sit today. We'll see what happens. Keep watch, keep a lookout. Be safe. From inside the empire, Neo Thinker.